Thank you. Thank you. So, good morning, Europe. And not long ago, whenever something European happened, it was always that the French and the Germans were very strong in getting together and making that work. Now, in the light of the recent cooling of the German and French relationships, what is left is myself. So, I'm based in Germany, and my company is called European Diversity, and we are very proud partners of the European Diversity Forum. And so we'll have to do with this little German-French relationship. And it was really funny when they asked me to present on the revolution at work, because obviously when you look at France and you think about revolution, you think like, oh, is it really me who's appropriate to speak about revolution in France? Especially as I'm staying at the Bastille. And on Saturday I was witnessing the gay pride march of 500,000 people on the Bastille. So then I realized, okay, revolution in France, that's something special. And I'm trying to position diversity in this context. And I then remembered that my first European Diversity Conference, which I co-organized with partners from the UK, happened in, what do you think? In Paris, of course, yeah. And the Tour Total, actually, and Total is also one of the sponsors here, so it all sounds quite, and it all seems to be quite familiar. And what I'm intending to do today is really to just frame the day and maybe give you some food for thought for your day-to-day about implementing diversity. And although the title is around diversity in companies in Europe, I'm afraid I won't be able to give you the whole picture of like 15 years of development. I'll try to condense it in a nutshell and give you some inspiration, hopefully, for the day. So let's start with the topic of revolution. And I'm sure that many of you, and you work in your companies and you try to convince management about the need and the urgency to do something in diversity, a lot of you will probably use the concept of change and tell people, oh, you know, there is so much change going on there, out there, and we have to do something about it. And you will tell them, there's a revolution going on. And they will ask you, revolution? What revolution? Which revolution? And here is the revolution that we actually know is going on at the moment. We are changing at the moment from a past system that is very structured, very linear, hierarchical, that is very production-oriented, materials-oriented, and very nationally and rationally organized. And that is really the old system of the first and the second industrial revolutions. I'm sure you heard about those. And that this is from the beginning of the 18th century, the late 18th century, they started to really change the business world and shape the business world in a very concrete way. So for 200 years, this has been the paradigm on which business was working. And this is what the future looks like. We will have a distributed system. You know what the biggest and most famous distributed system is? It's the internet. That's an example for a distributed system. Networks will be important, knowledge will be important, human resources, and everything will be much more international and emotional than it ever used to be before. And this really started in 1980, and it's called the third industrial revolution. You may have heard about that, and I recommend the book of Jeremy Rifkin, a famous economist, who's really telling you everything about this real revolution. So this is the revolution that is going on, and it requires all of us and all of your companies to change, to handle complexity and change, to work virtually, and we will have the next roundtable deal with this, with social networks and with all the world of virtualization. We will, innovation and workforce issues will be a lot more important than they ever were before. And of course, intercultural and value-oriented management. So along the way that some of you have heard people present yesterday. And if you ask yourself, where did it come from? How did it happen, the revolution? I mean, you know, at least the French of you, they know that revolutions, they don't come by themselves. Huh? There are concrete events that make those revolutions happen. And for the third industrial revolution, it was actually the coming together of two important events. And one was the breakdown of Eastern systems of communism, which opened up the world and made mobility possible, which kind of reoriented the whole business landscape, and the invention, of course, of then the internet since, I would say, 1990, more or less. So in the very early phase of the digital revolution. And those two events together has completely repositioned the business landscape. And people don't realize it. Of course they don't, because that has been going on for 200 years, and this has only been for 30. Yeah? So we don't really feel yet the whole impact. But this is the future, this is the transition we are in at the moment, and this is the consequences. So if you go back to your management and you tell them some of this, they will probably ask you, but is it really so urgent? What happens if I don't do it? And what happens? This is what happens. These are examples of companies and brands that just disappeared because they were not attentive enough of change. They did not realize the digital revolution, LA Times and Chicago Tribune, same for Akbar. They did not take the competition serious enough. And Curve Media, which was the biggest bankruptcy of post-war economy in Europe, they just felt that all the mainstream stuff they were doing in the TV business was just good enough. And it wasn't. And so they went out of business. So this is what happens when you don't, and your management does not pay attention to that revolution that's going on. And there is one man that was already cited yesterday that has put that in one sentence which I really like, and which I think we could take with us. For the world has changed, and we must change with it. Any idea who said that? Barack Obama, on his inauguration speech. And that was very powerful because change was one of the main concepts for him to win presidency, and also in the way he shapes the United States and international relations. So what does that mean more concretely for companies? What are their topics and what are they looking for? Because if we don't relate to what the companies want, we can't do that business meaningfully. And here are some of the what we call strategic priorities of companies. We have done an evaluation of many big studies into business trends, and we've looked at what are the recurring themes between all of them. And those were the 5 that stood out most clearly, which is what companies say, this is what we have to focus on. And we have to connect diversity to those trends, and we have to those priorities, and show our business managers, who are our clients, I would say, as practitioners, as diversity practitioners, how that diversity relates to that. And in order to do this, I want to go back to the change, and then we will see how it all comes together. The changes are very concrete that we can see at the moment in the business landscape. There are changes on 3 main levels. The changing demographics, so this is the what we work with, the rational pieces. Yeah? So then the changing values, the mindset, the attitudes change a lot in society, inside companies, and the relationships, how we work together, all based on the 3rd industrial revolution. So this means that workforce and markets get more diverse. It means that workforce and markets have different preferences in what they are looking for. It means that we have different ways to deal with our employees as well as with our clients. And all of the above and the below impacts the productivity that we do with our companies and the success we have on the markets. And both together impacts it on the bottom line. And this is what you need to know, and this is what your business management want to hear and want to be clear about before they take decisions around how to address diversity. And in terms of diversity in companies in Europe, I want to give you a short overview of the journey that was made in order to address all of those topics over the years. 15 years ago, we started with many concepts around, they were called just diversity, and they dealt with differences. And so that was the beginning. And then later at work, later in the process, we realized now we need to have an open mindset. We need to value the differences. We can't just promote them and just do things to make more diversity. So that is when the Dignity at Work and the Value and Diversity programs joined in order to make to create a positive environment for the differences that were already addressed. So this was more around mindset and around attitude. And later on, the experts realized, oh, but there are also similarities, so we have to put that into the play, and we have to see it more as a management system, as a holistic approach with tools and instruments, making sure that we integrate those topics into our HR processes. This is when recruitment and retention and development became very, very prominent in the field of diversity. And then, code of conduct. Then inclusion was the big revolution in the field of diversity a couple of years ago. Everybody felt like, oh, inclusion, that's really the important thing. This is what we have to do. Not only diversity, in fact, some companies started to do, not to look at diversity anymore, but only do inclusion, because they thought this is where we really get the benefits out of. And we're going on. It's still developing. The most recent concepts that are very famous and very widespread, I'm sure you have heard about unconscious bias. You've probably heard about the implicit association test. Both were mentioned in a certain way yesterday in some of the panels. But what we certainly have achieved over the years is that we are now looking at a much more holistic picture of diversity. We are looking at it from a standpoint of organization development, organization effectiveness, people development, effective teams, etc. So we are now really moving to the bigger picture of it. And this is really I would say, the breakthrough of the development, of the evolution of the revolution, as I put it here. And obviously, we do have a lot of differences between the companies within Europe. I've realized that a lot of the French companies, they position diversity often in the social responsibility context, which is good, and it can be very powerful. But it's certainly different in some other countries. We've seen that the countries with diversity charters, that there is a different dynamic around diversity in those countries than in countries where there are no charters. And I think it's fantastic in France to have the AFMD, because it's a professional association where people get together and really exchange good practice and learn and develop the field further. And there is only in Great Britain, there is the Institute for Equality and Diversity Practitioners, which is it's a bit similar, but it's, I think, the only other body of that field. So I think it's really valuable. And because European diversity, my company is research-based, we're also looking at more of the current developments. We are currently completing an organizational analysis of the 180 biggest companies in Europe about how they organize their diversity work together with AFMD. And we're also analyzing for the third time the Stocks 50 corporate reporting. So their annual reports and their CSR reports and their websites as to how they position diversity. And if you contact us, you can have those reports in a couple of weeks. Just call us. Give me a quick note. Now, what you will wonder now maybe is, how does it all fit together? It's a scattered landscape of different paradigms and models. So can I give you something practical how to use it? Well, I can, and I hope that's one reason why I'm here. So how does it all fit together? Here's a suggestion, and I'm sure you will recognize some elements from your work or from work others have done. This is what we've, by the way, developed in 2004 as a didactical principle for an executive education program we did for a global company that happened in South Africa. How does it all fit together? So what is clear is we start with differences, we start with diversity, because that's a reality. It's not a choice, it's not something you can argue about, it's just there. So we want to deal with it and we have to deal with it. Now we have learned that we can only use differences in a positive way if we have an open mindset. We as a person, but also we as an organization. So our collective mindset also has to be open. Yeah? So personally and organizationally. And the next element that has to be there is the behavioral element. Yeah? All the open mindset won't help if we don't have the skills, the practical possibilities to work together and to collaborate and communicate effectively. And yesterday's business theater was so perfect in showing how communication can also be the barrier. Yeah? And if that all comes together okay, then we hopefully will have the synergies and the positive outcomes and the benefits, which, by the way, have been proven empirically in so many studies. We've just released a report with 135 of those studies that prove that value, that possible value. It doesn't come automatically, it has to be managed. And so this is a model that we have put together as a learning model, but also as a discussion group. And I'm sure many of you will think like, oh, but it's maybe a bit too simple, it's a bit too straightforward. And of course, some things are more complex, but if you want to communicate around diversity and educate people around it, this is what has really helped. And there is also a French name that I've carved it, because I contributed to a small book by Sanusi, l'ancien secrétaire général de la Charte de la diversité. And there is in his book, Le Réflexe Sapien, there's a short article about this in there. So, and if we use this, then we see much clearer how it all comes together with the strategic priorities. Because if you see those different elements of diversity, open-mindedness, inclusion, and synergy, then it's much easier to see how they contribute to the business priorities of your business managers. And this is what they want to see, and this is what they want you to deliver if you are to get more budgets and more open doors to make more of the good things that you are already doing. So, for today, just some little elements that I offer you for today. Be prepared for the ongoing revolution. And I think one of the things that are probably really important to remember is diversity and inclusion, or Propelling Potential Principle, as I call it here. We should be aware that we focus on strengths and resources of differences. Yeah? So we are really here to look for the good. And again, I think the business theatres here and some of the roundtables have shown that very clearly. And it is an economic approach. We shouldn't feel as if though we have to fight poverty at the same time. It would be nice if we could. But yesterday it was kind of suggested that because there is the unfortunate development of increasing poverty in some areas, and there is also the development in diversity, that's not good. And I don't think we should create a relation there. It is an economic approach, and this is what we are there for. And we can, and we also shall, really approach diversity in a systematic way. We should do less of the segmentation, of doing like, oh, today gender and tomorrow disability and maybe in 2 years sexual orientation. I think if we create a system and a consistent process, we can apply it to the different themes, and we don't have to make selections all of the time. That's maybe not so good news, but I want to remind you of that for the rest of today when you think about new models of diversity. I don't think you can't reduce the complexity of diversity. It is one of its characteristics. It's one of the things that makes diversity strong, the complexity. So whenever you try to reduce it, you may be in trouble and you may lose part of its really key asset. Also to remind you, those of you who have been in the field for longer will realize diversity can be relatively easy to start, because then it's new, and then you start some analysis and campaigns, and people are excited and want to hear about it. But already after 1 or 2 years, it can be really difficult to maintain and sustain the effort and keep going. Because you have to find new ways to engage people, you have to become part of all the ongoing processes, etc. So that is a challenge, and just be prepared. For the new ones of you, be prepared for it, and for the professionals among you, let's find some new ways today how to sustain the journey. Business case is clear and robust, but on the one hand side, we also have to repeat it again and again. We have to allow people to ask for the business case, and we have to be there to make it again and again. So don't get tired over it. Yeah? It's part of our job to do that. But it's also not enough, because as we have learned today with the business theater, and it's such a powerful tool to make people think and discuss, the real challenges are emotional, obviously. It's not about the numbers. We can fix the numbers, but the real challenges are emotional, so be prepared for that as well. And don't let your management ask for miracles. Yeah? There is always the big talk about return on investment. Well, tell them no return without investment. That's as easy as it is. You know? So they won't get it for free, and that's sometimes the unfortunate expectation. And then, finally, and I think most importantly, change is at the heart of D&I. So you should understand your job and your future journey as a journey of change. So be prepared to really be a change agent, to be a change champion, and to face the challenge of changing even the biggest systems that you may have in front of you. And it's not easy, it takes time, and there is a lot of small successes and failures on the way. Of course, we have to stay professional ourselves. We have to always role model the high ethics and the high standards that we preach. And that's also what I would like you to do today. Role model diversity in the way that look out for people that you don't know. I've noticed yesterday that as always on conferences, we love to stand around with people that we know, because and see you again, and can we talk about this, and can we talk about that? Now today is your great opportunity to look deliberately for people that you don't know, and there is a few from around Europe, and a few from around Paris and France, and everybody has something interesting to tell you. So today, let's make a difference together. Thank you, and have a good day.